Hello again, and welcome back to another one. And today we have a couple of topics to cover, from how Eminem's epic rock hall speech came about that included over 100 acts who influenced him, to more on how things changed for Eminem in the span of less than a decade, in his own words, and this includes a wild reaction from Eminem to what remains objectively the peak year in hip-hop like we discussed in the last video, and we'll get to more on this in a bit. But first of all, before we dive in, remember that just a few days ago, Eminem hit a new career milestone on Spotify of 58 million monthly listeners, and a few hours ago he topped it and hit a peak of 59 million, the highest for a 90s rapper ever on the platform. He is currently 12th in the world based on monthly listeners, 7th based on streams, and over on Reddit a user expands. And being a top 15 streaming artist in 2022 is insane. He has dominated physicals during the SoundScan CD era, digitals during the iTunes era, and is still a top streamer, loudly crying emoji. Like, how can anyone ever come for that type of longevity? The digital sales era was special for Eminem, and according to Chartmaster's estimates, he's the second bestseller on that format of all time, second to Rihanna, and they are the only artist to sell over 200 million digital singles. And speaking on his Spotify record, it'll be interesting to see if he can get to 60 million in 2022 without a project since 2020. Moving on, Paul Rosenberg recently shared an excerpt from a recent article about how Eminem came up with his induction speech, and it goes, Eminem first put pen to paper and started sketching out his list about 10 days prior to the November 5th ceremony, according to his manager, Paul Rosenberg. We never started off by saying, let's limit it to X number, because we knew that would become a struggle. How can I fit this person and not this person? Said Rosenberg on the phone this week. So we just said, go for it, come up with a list, and we'll see what it looks like. That initial list was around 75 artists, and he kept adding to it, said Rosenberg. And nobody felt like telling him no, because it was so genuine and so from his heart, he really meant what he said. And this is from the Detroit News article that included how some of the acts who made Eminem's list reacted so far. In fact, third base rapper MC Serch, who made Eminem's comprehensive list, according to the report, woke up to 67 messages on his phone that left him wondering what was going on, and he described the shout-out as incredibly humbling and more. That to me was such a gracious and amazing thing to do, to have that depth of acknowledgement for all of the artists that he was able to remember in that auspicious moment, Serch said. Artists that we are well aware of, and artists that most of us are probably not aware of, but are incredibly talented in their own right. And it was the same from Tretch. Check this out. Tretch said he heard about Eminem's Rock Hall shoutout when his phone blew up after the fact. Hats off to M. He continued, a lot of artists will come out and they don't pay homage. I always let everybody know my favorite artists from the 70s and 80s. It's never a top 5 or a top 10. It's like a top 50, you feel me? So for him to do that, it just shows what type of individual he is. He never forgets. There's more reactions, and I'll leave a link to the article in the description of this video. And moving on to the next point, for those of you who were with us for the last video, we spoke on how the 8 Mile soundtrack certification was just updated for the 20th anniversary. That's now 6 times platinum. And since 2002 is objectively the peak year for a hip-hop act, #1 film, #1 soundtrack, #1 single, all in the same week, in the same year, Eminem dropped The Eminem Show, well, this was Eminem's wild reaction to the milestone.
You had the #1 movie and the #1 album in the country at the same time. Your soundtrack was 2 weeks out and it was still #1, and the movie was #1. Did you expect everything to do that well?
You know what? I don't focus too much on that. If I do, like, I stay in the studio, I keep working, you know. It doesn't matter if the movie did nothing or it did 100,000 million. It doesn't matter, like, I stay working.
Just shows how things change after one has achieved self-actualization. Access Hollywood shared a clip that shed some light on the past struggles before the success.
I used to literally make my own tapes, go to Kinko's, press up, draw my own covers, press the covers up at Kinko's and sell them out of my trunk, go into these clubs where I'm literally like the only white person there, and trying to sell my tape, just or my CD, that I would save up like my income tax checks from my job at the end of the year and put it all into my music, save it, and go to these clubs and just try to sell it for $4, get this CD, A lot of times, even giving it out, just like, listen to this. You know, every time there was a hip-hop summit, if it was in Detroit, if it was in Miami, if it was in Cincinnati, you know, get in the car with my friends, some of them from D12, get in the car, just drive down there and just try to get anybody to just listen to our demo.
And this change all happened in less than a decade. That will be all for today. Share your thoughts below. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.